What?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
I'm just
But of
saying,
course,
you gotta remind people. You want to get
Subscribe right now.
subscribe.
subscribe. Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Having a mic would be kind of important to starting the show up. Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Get the Whole podcast. Steve McAvoy, Ben Pirro, joining you this week. Another great Monday on the world of golf as we head into the FedEx Cup Playoffs. Lydia Ko claims gold in the Women's Olympic event, and we have a whole big breakdown from everything that happened this week at the Wyndham to, of course, Matt Kuchar's literal hole-in-one to a deep dive into everything happening in the FedEx Cup Playoffs. Coming to you live from the underground part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you can get a hold of both me and Ben, bringing you all the news, analysis, and betting tips from across the golfing world, including the PGA, LPGA, Corn Ferry, and LIVGolf tours, proudly presented today and always by Tomahawk Shades, one of our best partners and one of the best small batch eyewear brands in the industry. Founded on Long Island, rep by some of the biggest personalities in sports, including Chris Hogan, Kyle Harrison, and Paige Sporadic. Tomahawk Shades is guaranteed to keep you looking fresh from the first hole to the 18th green and beyond. Head to TomahawkShades.com or download the Tomahawk Shades app on the App Store or Google Play Store and browse their selection of sunglasses, blue light plus glasses, and prescription lenses. And be sure to use code USP for 25% off your next order on the Tomahawk Shades app or TomahawkShades.com. Ben, I heard you had to break into your house the other day.
Wait, how'd you find out?
You told me this. Did you break a window, or did you have to like Jimmy Doors? What are we doing here?
I'm not gonna say how I did it, but I did it. That's all I'm gonna say.
I wanted the juice. I wanted the story. All right, then let's get into the actual news of the golf week with the greatest headline I might have ever read this morning on golf.com. Matt Kuchar's hole-in-one. Yes, you are reading that right. He did not make an ace in the event at the Wyndham, but he did come back and play one hole more than everybody else, basically. So for those of you who have lived under a rock for the last week, yesterday, Matt Kuchar on Sunday, playing in one of the final pairings at the Wyndham, was getting dark out. He hit his tee shot past the guys on the fairway. Didn't even see them. Clearly the peripheral, the vision wasn't great there. They apparently blew the horn despite the team in the booth not knowing whether or not they blew the horn, as Aaron Rai was still on the fairway going up 18 to eventually cap off his win. They chose to play on. Matt Kuchar finds his ball in the rough, marks it, and says, I'll come out tomorrow. And as the only person on the golf course, showed up this morning at 9 a.m., played a half a hole of golf, and it actually cost him $100,000, believe it or not. Instead of being T7 with a birdie, he makes par, finishes T11, and loses out on a $100,000 check. His whole season was the door was shut on his chances to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. First time that he has missed the playoffs since their inception in 2007. So Kuchar had no reason to finish things out on Sunday. Ben, you've been hyped to talk about this. Give us your assessment and your breakdown.
Well, he didn't lose $100,000. He just didn't make the extra $100,000 he could have made.
Yes, but
if he had bogeyed the hole and had lost $100,000, but he didn't gain or lose anything. See,
yes.
Here's the deal. The way that this works, because I saw this comment, because you can see comments on a post, just the first one or two of the comments. The PGA Tour posted something regarding Matt Kuchar, and he gave his interview after the round. He basically explained himself. He had absolutely zero reason for him to have to explain himself.
Yeah.
The deal is, and because everyone likes to run their mouths on social media and the majority of people don't even know what they're talking about, they blew the horn because of darkness. Now, because it's not a threatening situation, you are allowed to play on. So darkness is not a threatening situation.
Yeah.
Thunder and lightning is, which is why you have to stop. They make you stop. Okay. If you proceed on, you're disqualified. Okay. Now for darkness, because it's a non-threatening situation, if you start the hole, you can choose to finish it. Okay. So because he had teed off, he had the option to finish. Now, he decided, obviously he wasn't going to win, and obviously he ended up hitting like hybrid into the green, okay, and ended up almost chipping in for birdie, and he tapped in for par. So he didn't gain or lose anything. He stayed right where he was. I'm pretty sure it tied for 12th, and it was like a log jam, like 10 guys tied for 12. You know, in my opinion, the only reason he is the one getting shit for this is because it's Matt Kuchar. Okay. Doesn't have the greatest reputation on tour. My sources tell me he's actually not exactly the most likable guy out there. I have not exactly heard glowing remarks about him.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, he essentially is a cheap ass. If you have never heard anything about his career, probably, unfortunately, his most infamous moment was, or really maybe even his most well-known moment was when I'm not going to say he stiffed his caddy. I believe I don't remember where the tournament was, but he won a tournament. He didn't have his normal caddy on the bag, and he basically just was a cheap ass. He barely gave the guy anything. He won the tournament too. And it was brought to the attention of media, and everyone now knows that Matt Kuchar is cheap, and he's a cheap ass. And I believe because of his reputation, which I think prior to that, most people thought kind of goofy, funny guy, family man, and that incident. And then I just have not heard great things about him from people who are involved with the PGA Tour. It makes sense why people are giving him shit over this, because it's like, of course, Matt Kuchar would try to make an extra $100,000. Like, does he need it? No. $100,000 is a lot to you and me, and it's a lot to most people. It's not a lot to Matt Kuchar. That being said, though, he is completely in the right to not play on, like he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to, because just because he started the hole, it's under his discretion whether he wants to complete it or not. And to him, he just decided to come back the next day. It didn't cost anybody the tournament. Aaron Rye had already won. He finished out, and they carry on with the trophy ceremony. So it's not like Aaron had to hang around until Monday morning. So a couple of tour officials had to. That's really not a big deal. And to be honest, it gives you something to talk about on a Monday where there's really not a whole lot else going on, because the Olympics are now over and we are now getting into the FedEx Cup Playoff. So, I understand why some people might be annoyed because it's Matt Kuchar, and he's just like, of course, like the guy who essentially stiffed his caddy at a tournament that he won. Of course, he wants another $100,000. But at the same time, he's acting. He has the right to do that per the rules of golf.
Yeah, the only thing that I think the issue at hand, I think, is less the idea that Kuchar just chose to not play out. Meanwhile, Chad Ramey and Max Greyersman, the group that was with him, chose to play out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes back to what you said about how tour officials and folks from the club had to come back and basically show up at 8 a.m. to facilitate not even a hole, but a approach shot and a 2-putt. Like, it wasn't even anything like significant. You're basically I don't want to make it out to sound like it's a huge deal that you need to show up to work at 8 a.m. to do 25 minutes of work. But at the end of the day, some people, if they don't have to do it on a Monday, they don't. So if anything, I think more of the issue is, why would he not finish out if everyone else was willing to? On top of the fact that again, he was playing behind the group of Rye, Horschel, and Cameron Young, which obviously Aaron Rye ended up winning. Greyersman was I believe, a shot behind, so he wanted to play out, even though Rye had made the birdie to basically seal it out. So at the end of the day, like, it was questionable for why he wouldn't just carry on with the pack. He was staying with a friend who was who lived right off the 15th green. So, like, literally just like walked out and walked his way through his ball in the morning and played it out. I don't really care what Matt Kuchar does. Go ahead, do whatever you want. I also do think that, yeah, he shouldn't be getting the shit that he does, even though he has this aura about him. I think, look, everyone makes mistakes. And I remember when he did stiff his caddy back at Mayakoba, I think it was like 2019, 2018. Like, was it shitty? Yeah. But one moment doesn't define somebody, and people shouldn't be jumping back to call him out on more stuff. At the end of the day, he's been a relatively quiet guy on tour for the last 4 years. He's on the older side. He's just here to play golf and have fun and close out his career until he ends up making it onto the Legends Tour. That's just what he's doing. It was certainly interesting, to say the very least, but this is getting a lot more attention than I think it really should or has to.
Well, because the thing is, like, I like, the only reason it's getting is, like, if it was anybody else, no one would really give a shit. But it's because of his history regarding money, where it's just kind of like, of course, like, it's such an eye roll, because it's like, of course, like, the one player, that's why people are like, of course, like, the one player out there is the guy who's known for being cheap. Like, of course,
who also doesn't need the extra money and taking off with
$100,000. It's not going to make or break his year or his financial situation. You know, like, I can personally name several times where we've played, and I'm just like, why the fuck are we playing right now? I can't see anything, and you're waiting for them to blow the horn. You're just waiting for them at that point, and you have to carry on. And it's frustrating. I've seen players miss a lot of short putts. I've seen players hit bad shots because it's so dark out, that it really messes with your depth perception. When it gets to the point where you can't see the group in front of you, you should not be playing. Yeah. So, like, I'm not going to fault him for that. He's playing by the rules, and if that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. And that's it. So, is it kind of on brand for him? Yeah. Like, it just kind of makes sense. Like, he would do something like this, but at the end of the day, like, it's not like, I don't know. We've had a couple, that's kind of our second, interesting rules situation this year. That and the Robert McIntyre drop from the
yes. Well, actually, you can also tack in on that the Jordan Spieth hit it off the clubhouse to get free relief, like 20 feet from the hole situation that he had. I think it was down in Texas. Might have been the Byron Nelson, I think it was. You find these, like, really dumb things, and actually, it's funny that like, we're talking about, like, rulings and all that stuff. I have one friend who's, like, a huge stickler for the rules, and like he acts. We're playing, like, fucking, like, Willow Creek in Mount Sinai, and he acts like it's the fucking Tour Championship. Like, I remember I hit a ball that I thought was OB. I hit a provisional. I found the ball at a white stake. So I'm like, all right, so it's OB. The second ball also landed OB. We're not, like, playing anything incredibly serious, but I'm like, all right, the other ball landed way worse than the other one. I'm just gonna take this ball, take a stroke, and hit it from where it landed. Like, he's like, no, back to the tee box. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, give me a break. I now started following the USGA Instagram account that like goes through all these, like, really weird innate like rules. I think we should start a fun, like, thread on like the oddest rules in golf and go into, like, things like that, because, again, one of those, like, odd things. This whole week was very weird. It basically rained out all of Thursday. The reason why they were playing dark on Sunday.
It's a miracle they even
it's incredible.
it's a miracle. Like, I mean, I guess technically they didn't because they had one guy left out there. I thought for sure it was going to be a Monday finish. When you lose a whole day like that, I mean, geez, like even at like the U.S. Open at Bethpage in 2009, like you had guys who at least started their first round, and then the rest of the day was a washout.
Oh yeah,
it ended up being a Monday finish. Like more often than not. I mean, look, like I think because so many players who were trying to get into that top 70 or even the top 125 in an effort to keep their card for next year, regardless of, you know, what their situation was, or like the top 150 even to try to get conditioned for next year. You know, everyone kind of had an understanding of where they were, and because it's such a big week for a lot of those guys who are right on the bubble, they kind of had like an understanding. They're like, all right, like, you know, like a friend of mine who played in the Sony Open, they were trying to beat Darkness in the second round, and none of the guys were going to make the cut. The 3 guys in the group were not going to make the cut, and they were just like, fuck it, like let's just play fast, like, and let's like get out of here. No one's going to make the cut in our group. So, you know, but I don't know, you know, Matt Kuchar wanted to try to get that extra $100,000. He almost did. I don't know if you saw the chip. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. It really was. I thought he made it, but yeah. So
jot up another win for the golf history books of weird shit that can go on. I'm telling you, people who don't appreciate the oddballness of golf is like it baffles me. People are like, oh, I don't watch golf because it's boring. Like there's so many weird innate things and odd like bullshit that goes on that it's like it's how can you not watch it? Speaking of things that were crazy and stuff of basically legends, Lydia Ko at LIVGolf National in France, wrapping up the Olympic coverage. By the way, I want to give a shout out quickly to our network, put on a pod, daily recaps of everything happening in the Olympics. I broke down a deep dive into the men's and women's golf side. I went on to talk about like track and field. We ran daily coverage on Light the Flame, our official Olympic pod. Going to keep it running into the Paralympics come August, as well as the Winter Olympics in 2 years. We're also going to use it to host shows for international soccer competitions, other international events, most likely possibly doing a little bit of like Ryder Cup stuff. So really cool to be able to be a part of something like that. And they did so freaking good, this show. Got a ton of subs, ton of views, finished like top 100 on the Spotify charts for Olympic coverage. Like it was incredible. To literally take it as a spark and build it over 2 weeks was just awesome. But only one small part of that was Lydia Ko knocking down yet another milestone on what has been an incredible career. Her, of course, first Olympic victory to go along with 28 professional wins. She has 18 LPGA Tour wins, 2 major championships, and is now officially qualified at the age of 27 years old for the LPGA Hall of Fame with the victory. She's been a multi-time Rolex Player of the Year. She was rated as one of the #1 amateurs in the world. She's absolutely incredible and won this thing at 10 under par with a really strong run-up by 25-year-old German Esther Henslett. She ran up 6 under in the final round to come up 2 strokes short. And then at 7 under, Lin Jiyu from China takes the bronze, as Nelly Korda seemed to struggle mightily during the week. But like, what a run for Lydia Ko. We don't talk enough LPGA on this show, but when we do, it's always about monumental occurrences. I understand, like we were talking about it pre-show a couple of days ago when it came out that she had qualified for the Hall of Fame. The qualifications to get into the men's PGA Hall of Fame versus the women's is very different. They go on a women's point system, so you get a point for every single regular season win, 2 for every major. You have to be pre-qualified as either a former Player of the Year, a U.S. Girls Junior Amateur Champion, or Player of the Year. You need to have multiple majors under your belt. All these different things, and then also one of the other big parts of it is you need to have a major international trophy aside from what you've earned in LPGA seasons, which the Olympics qualifies, and officially notched her in. She's the youngest the youngest Hall of Fame qualifying LPGA player ever, which is actually really freaking impressive. That you and I are bordering 27 years old, and here we are, and she's
easy. I'm not even 26 and a half yet. Just relax.
And a half. Look at you.
Not even and a half. Not even.
Actually, I turned 26 and a half last Tuesday.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty damn cool. Now, but like again, as a 27-year-old, to be able to accomplish all of that, and you want to talk about like the scale of LPGA players to PGA players, and like who is these top players? We're talking about it, I believe, actually on Light the Flame. I was talking to KB about it. I'm drawing a blank on what it was. It wasn't track. It might have been swimming. And we're rating how. Oh no, sorry, it was basketball. Asia Wilson in the WNBA. They were saying how she could very well be one of the top 10 basketball players in the world, men's or women's, not particularly on skill set, but on accolades and achievements over the last 5 or 6 or so years, whatever it might be. Lydia Ko, if you stack her up and her achievements opposed most of the PGA Tour players, she's probably in the top 5 somewhere. 18 pro wins over, I believe it's like 6 or 7 years. Most guys can't ever say they'll even hit that in a 30-year career. So really impressive from Lydia Ko.
No, I mean she's been on an incredible run. Like you said, she's the youngest to ever qualify for the Hall of Fame, which is just mind blowing to be able to do that at 27. I mean, that's just like the more you think about it, the more just insane it sounds. And she was, I think she was really one of those, because the career arc for women in golf is much different from that of men. And you generally find that LPGA rookies are much younger than PGA Tour or even Korn Ferry Tour rookies. I want to say, I don't know what the exact numbers are now, but like 10 years ago, I believe it was, the average age for an LPGA Tour rookie was like 23. Okay. And so I know there's obviously been a youth movement. So it might even be younger than that now. The average age for a Korn Ferry player is 27, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. And PGA Tour, it's 28. So
I think sorry, internet kind of zoned out. Go ahead.
So that's a 5-year gap. Okay. And and generally their pro careers start sooner than men's careers. And so at least based on what I've seen, I mean, we've had, it's more of a rarity than people realize, but there are women who join the LPGA and turn pro at really, really young ages. And, right out of high school. And now with guys, you really don't see that anymore. The most notable one to try that was Akshay. He turned pro right out of high school, but he's an anomaly. Like that's like it is done in golf, but it's not done to that magnitude of success that Akshay has achieved. And so it's much more of the norm in women's golf to see someone straight out of high school, they turn pro and they make it on the LPGA fairly quickly. And so that's why you might see a difference in the age gap. But regardless, to do what she's been doing, and at just 27 to be able to call herself a Hall of Famer, it's pretty crazy. I mean, the thing is, in the NFL, you have to be out of the NFL, I believe, for 5 years, and then they vote you in. Like she, and obviously, look, like different criteria for the LPGA, PGA, NFL, MLB, all that stuff. But to call yourself a Hall of Famer, like to literally be a Hall of Famer at 27 is nuts. So shout out to her. That's incredible. She was basically a can't miss prospect essentially when she was coming up, and she has a great reputation. She has a great swing. She has a great game. She has a great head and her shoulder. She's done everything that you would hope a young professional athlete would do. So hats off to her. So, and I do think that especially in the past year and a half, she's definitely been almost put on the back burner as far as what's being talked about in women's golf, because for a while, I mean, Nelly Korda was just tearing it up, and
Yeah.
that's all people were talking about. And it was almost like people forgot how good Lydia Ko is. Like, she's still really good. Like, she's still incredibly talented. So I think that this is a great reminder as well. Like, it's not all about Nelly Korda. There's still a lot of talent beyond just Nelly on the LPGA in women's golf.
And I think also with that, and this goes back to talking about how the stars are starting younger and younger in women's golf. Like, I think Lexi Thompson qualified for the U.S. Women's Open at like 12 years old this past year. An 11-year-old from China qualified at 11. Like, you look at the top players in women's golf, and earlier this year, Nelly Korda had I think the 4 or 5 win streak, same thing as Scotty, and everyone was talking about like, who's going to keep it going further and further back in April. There's been a ton of new talent coming up on the LPGA Tour. Lilia Vu from the USA also has been really good. There's been like Rose Zhang has come up as a second-year player from Stanford. Yuka Sasso's been incredible. Charlie Hole's getting all the headlines. Lydia Ko is actually only she's ranked 12th currently in the Rolex like world rankings for women's golfers. So she's actually fallen down a little bit. But as of 2 years ago, when the whole world was talking about Nelly Korda, the person right on her tail was Lydia Ko the whole way through. She's won multiple awards for the lowest scoring average on the LPGA Tour. She was the 2014 Rookie of the Year. She's been on tour for over 10 years. She first came out. She started college, went to Korea University at 16, came out at 17, and came right to the States to play. Two-time LPGA Player of the Year. She led the money list in 2022. She had the lowest scoring average. Player of the Year, led the money list, and was number one in the overall season rankings. Two-time major winner, has been able to achieve so much. It's really like incredible how you can do what she's been able to do, with the talent also getting younger and younger every single year, as you were saying. So shout out to Lydia Ko. Let's transition a little bit into what is going on now with the FedEx Cup Playoffs, as the Wyndham Championship is now out the back door. We now say hello to the next 3 most important weeks of the PGA Tour regular season calendar that isn't major golf season. We started off with the FedEx St. Jude at TPC Southwind. A lot of stuff to come on the other side, but quick deep dive into who has made the field of 70, down from 125 from 2 years ago. 70 players to get down to 50 and then down to 30 for the Tour Championship down at East Lake. Ben, I want to give you I want to take 3 guys. We've broken this out by tiers. Who is in the back, the middle, and the front of the pack in terms of already qualified or like right around in the area for this event, numbers 51 to 70, who needs to jump up in order to get to the BMW. From 31 to 50, guys who were already in the BMW field technically, unless they were to fall out, and the guys who are currently qualified for East Lake. Give me one name from each area that you think that you're surprised about, that you're interested in seeing, who has a really good shot maybe from the back of this pack in order to break out over the next 2 weeks and get into East Lake.
I mean, look, so before I answer the question, it's been a long year. So we pretty much have a good idea of where everyone's at and why a player might be struggling, or maybe why a player might have had a breakout year. From 51 to 70, I am stunned that Victor Hovland is 57. That's our reigning FedEx Cup champion. And he won it last year going away. I mean, it was stupid how well he played at the Tour Championship. The fact that he's 57th and he's not even guaranteed a spot in the Tour Championship after last year is just nuts to me. From the group, so that's a stunner for me. For guys who are eyeing the Tour Championship, the 31 to 50, there's a couple shockers, but I mean, look, like you could maybe talk about Will Zalatoris. Will Zalatoris hasn't played a lot of golf in like the past year prior to this year. Okay, so is that really a stunner at 49? Not quite. Tom Kim, he's so young, and so he's probably just going through the typical growing pains of what a early 20s professional golfer goes through at the highest stage. There's a lot of growing pains there. So 43, it's not quite a shocker. Max Homa is definitely a shocker to me. I know he's only 35th, so he's not really that far out of it. You only have to be top 30. But based on his last couple of years, you would have thought, oh, he'll contend to win a major. And technically, he did contend at Augusta, even though Scotty just continued to blow everyone out of the water. Mm-hmm. Max Homa is kind of a stunner at 35th, a guy who hits it that good, who hits it that straight. He just seemed off early in the year, and then he would have a couple good finishes, but he was very inconsistent. And then just a couple surprises that I want to go over for the top 30, for 1 through 30. Billy Horschel, who had a really, really tough year last year. I believe it was last year at the Memorial. He was so emotional at the podium just because he was in such a bad place with his golf game. I mean, you just saw it broke the man down. It really did. Mm-hmm. That was pretty stunning. I think some people could say Justin Thomas is a stunner, but he's always been so good. And you just had a feeling that he would just figure it out after last year, how much he struggled. Those are my three guys that are just kind of stunners for different reasons, I guess.
Yeah, I have a lot of surprises. So when I was going up and down this list to try and like quantify like who's where, it shocked me that Max Homa was 35th, considering the whole entire year I've been like, he hasn't played really great, like awe-inspiring golf. Will Zalatoris is 49th, where he has not played nearly as much golf as others have, and yet is still higher than Victor Hovland, Minwoo Lee, Jordan Spieth. Let me pull up other names that is higher than Ben Griffin, Eric Cole, who early in the year was really good, Harris English, who's had a turnaround. Even Peter Malnati, who literally won a tournament earlier this year. Kind of crazy to see how he has, bless you, how he has overcome all of these guys to manage to break the top 50. With that being said, also, it's crazy how the number of guys who we talked the whole entire year about like consistency and guys who were playing really well throughout the entirety of the year. Denny McCarthy being one of those guys, Alex Noren being another, JT Poston, all of which still fall in the mid 45 range. Didn't do anything awe-inspiring, didn't have a lot of just to get the maximum of their points, but to still see them in a range where surprised Adam Scott is the 46th ranked player. Didn't I watch enough golf to be able to be like, all right, this guy's hot, this guy's not, where they match up. Would honestly, I've been shocked that Adam Scott would have even been within the top 100 with the way that he's played the entirety of the year. Same thing goes for Minwoo Lee. I was looking at the numbers. He has only 2 top 10s the entirety of the year. Has barely finished within the top 20 the majority of the year. Jordan Spieth at 63, I can totally believe it. Can
I just say something about Minwoo?
Yeah.
I think Minwoo is shocking because he's so talented. You watch him at a golf ball and it's like, damn, that guy just hits it so crisply every single time. So it's like you have this guy, and I believe this is his rookie year, isn't it?
Second year or third year.
Oh, second year. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I think he has so much physical talent. You're just kind of surprised he just hasn't put it together. I mean, who knows? Maybe next year is the year. I mean, I already know what you're going to say about Jordan, and I'm already agreeing with you. Go for it.
The golf game just simply isn't there. You mentioned Billy Horschel. A lot of that was probably predicated on the fact that he has A, a win, and B, 3 top 10s in majors this year.
Well, to be fair, that win was in the Dominican, which not exactly. It's an alternate event, you know.
Still 40 points,
and he stole that win from Wesley Bryan, mind you. Oh my gosh, he shot like 62 or 63 in that final round. He went bonkers.
But like, what really shocks me is the guys who are like all the way up at the front. Like in years past, and it'll probably end up evening out. And we don't usually do a segment like this early on in the playoffs, but whenever we get up to Eastlake and it's the final week, there's the top 30 guys. They're like, the names make sense. You understand, like, yeah, the top 10 is the top 10. All those guys deserve to be there. Sanjay M might be a little bit surprising. He's kind of always beat himself, but the fact that he made it up to 9 is really good. But I can say confidently that everybody up until like number, say, 15, 16 is probably deserves to be there. The guys all in the top 30 should relatively be there, but like Tom Hoagie was one of the best golfers to not win anything in the first 2 months of the year, and then just dipped off, still manages to hold a 21. Christian Bezaden, who had about a 7-week run where he was finishing top 20, top 15 every single event, manages to hold on to 22. Davis Thompson, we haven't talked about him, honestly, the entirety of the year, with the exception of probably the 3M when I was on with KB, didn't talk to him whatsoever. 24th. Aaron Rise win lifts him up to 25th. Taylor Pendrith, who is the 4th best Canadian on tour, still manages to crack the top 30. Surprised Corey Connors is only at 30. Cameron Young and Tommy Fleetwood, 31 and 32. When the hell are they going to ever do anything? There's a lot of surprises, and I'm sure the names will line up as we get to Eastlake. But like, if the top 30, let's say right here, holds, it's going to be a very interesting grouping, because not to say that anybody could win on any given week, but you put the top 12 guys on the PGA Tour actively up against the Davis Thompsons and Billy Horschels and Christian Bezaden, and I don't think it's very close. And the aggregate will only make it even harder. So a lot of surprises for me. A lot of really interesting guys who fell off, who are still managing to hold on. Emiliano Grillo had a really strong early year, a tough second half. Brendan Todd makes his first FedEx Cup in like 5 years. The ageless wonder. There's a lot of very interesting names. There's one though that I want to actually really highlight. It's Keegan Bradley at 39. Has had a tumultuous year, good and bad on both sides, and has still managed to make his way here. So good on him. We'll talk more about him in a bit.
Anyway, I just wanted to point something out. So one of the reasons why we have so many names that are just so unfamiliar, and really just the top 30 in general. Number one, like the main reason, it's the live effect. Okay, so many of those well-known players, high-profile players, they defected to live, and so like we said, this was going to open up more opportunities for guys who you've never heard of, and you probably never would have paid attention to had live not been a thing. But, we had the stretch of like, it felt like almost like 8 weeks earlier this year where it was just like, who the hell is Jake Knapp? Who won the Farmers Insurance Open? Like those were literally the conversations we were having. That's the first thing. And then, you made the comment about how it's like, well, this guy, he was like the best golfer the first like 2 months of the year, like to not win, but he hasn't really done a whole lot. Essentially, when you look at the majority of PGA Tour players, I'm not talking about the superstars like the Scotties and the Xanders, the guys who always at the top and just never seem to go away.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like your typical tour player. The majority of the money that a normal tour player makes is made in 4 or 5 events during the year. Then you have a bunch of average finishes. And then you have 4 or 5 events where it's just complete shit. And it's like a bell curve. It's literally a bell curve. You have 5 great events. You have, say, 15, middle of the pack finishes, top 25s, top 40s, whatever. And then you have 5 where they were just like unwatchable. And that's kind of what you're seeing. And so that's why there were guys who got up to such fast starts early in the year, even like Jake Knapp. he hasn't done anything since his win.
True.
But he had a stretch of 4 or 5 events where it's just like, who is this guy? Number one, who is this dude? Number two, he has like what felt like 4 top 10s in a row, and he was competing for like a month straight. He wins the event. Well, there's like his 4 or 5 like really good finishes for the year, because Jake Knapp isn't a superstar. Could he become one? Sure. Okay. They all have the capability to do that. But after that, he's had a lot of very forgettable finishes, and that just shows the bell curve. And it's just really the law of averages of how professional golf works.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to know that, like, again, Davis Thompson only needed 5 big-time events in order to get as high as he did. Billy Horschel, same sort of story. And then you have on the alternative side, like Nick Dunlap, who I don't know, can amateurs earn FedEx Cup points?
Well, he's not an amateur anymore, though.
Well, so my thing is that he won 2 events this year, but he missed more cuts than he made cuts, and yet still qualified in the top 70. I'm curious if his first win at the Amex as an amateur counts towards his FedEx Cup points.
I don't believe so. Because he wasn't a tour member, that's why.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Now here's the thing. I'm not sure. So when Jordan Spieth won the John Deere Classic for his first win, he was not a tour member. The only way he could become a member during the year was if he won a tournament. Because at the time, he had made so much money that he was automatically going to be a member the next year. But that being said, Jordan was a pro. Okay, so it automatically, he was already a pro. Then that basically, quote unquote, bought him his tour membership for the rest of that year. And he ended up all of the really like FedEx Cup points that he would have accumulated during the time of him not being a tour member. I believe they ended up adding that in to once he got his actual tour card when he won the John Deere. As an amateur, I don't know how that works at all. Because technically, yes, like he ended up becoming a tour member and he turned pro, but I don't believe he accepted the money because he was an amateur. He could have turned pro right after that, leading into the next event, which he did, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it's weird. Like for Q school, you'll see guys who go to Q school as amateurs. And then if they get their tour card, they just turn pro. It's the dumbest thing. They should really start making whatever. That's another discussion.
So after a quick Google search, he did not earn any FedEx Cup points, and obviously he didn't win any earnings as an amateur. But interestingly enough, at the Amex when he won, Christian Bezaden, who came in second, did not earn the 500 FedEx Cup points. He earned his regular 300 for finishing solo second, but earned the money that Dunlap would have made.
Place money,
which I also find interesting. Like, why wouldn't they just give him the first place points regardless? But even like Nick Dunlap shows you how you only really need a couple of weeks. He missed more cuts than he made and had 1, 2, 3 top 15, top 20 finishes the entirety of the year. One of which came at the Memorial, so he got extra points for that. He won his event at the Barracuda, an alternate event, the Rocket Mortgage, and then a T11 at the Houston Open. 4 events and more missed cuts than mades manages to get him into the field, which equally shows you how bad a year Justin Thomas had last year. The fact that he missed out, and yet Nick Dunlap on 4 really good weeks manages to squeak in. Really interesting stuff. We're going to take a short break. On the other side, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into what's happening this week in the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs at the FedEx St. Jude at TBC Southwind first event of the year coming right around the corner. Don't go nowhere.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing from T-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
Damn.
You really butchered that outro right there.
I know. I
pointed out.
I'm on meds. I'm trying to like overcome right now. I've been so tired. I'm like loopy. Oh Christ. Welcome back in. Stephen Ben. Get in the hole. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Acorn Hills before we jump into what's going on at TBC Southwind. Acorn Hills bringing you stylish apparel for on and off the golf course, all using biodegradable packaging and implantable clothing tags. Their mid-year sale is happening right now, so go check out acornhillsco.com and use code GITH15 for 15% off your next order. Look your best from the ground up with Acorn Hills, changing the game, changing clothing through conservation. Let's get into the preview of the FedEx St. Jude at TBC Southwind. A long and historic event this week that has seen a ton of surprisingly first-time winners, both as a playoff event but also as a WGC and beyond. I saw this trending on Twitter, and I wanted to ask you this first. We mentioned Cameron Young and Tommy Fleetwood constantly on this show and how they can't get over the hump, but in past years, first-time winners at this golf course include Will Zalatoris, of course, Abe Ancer, Daniel Berger, and Harris English all over the last 8 years. Is there any chance you think in the first playoff event that Cameron Young or Tommy Fleetwood can lock in that first win?
I'm just not even going to answer it because they haven't done it yet. And I told you I was not even going to touch them if it came to winning a golf tournament for the sake of beer money. So, of course, it's possible, but that's all I'm going to say because they have burned us, you and I, so many times. And I will not be picking them to do anything because I am losing by 2 with 3 weeks to go in beer money.
But you know who else burned us a lot 2 years ago in beer money until he finally won? That was Will Zalatoris. So part of me's like, it might very well happen. I really don't know.
But the thing with Will Zalatoris was that at the time he was such a physically gifted ball striker. You're like anyone who hits it that good, it's just a matter of time. You can't really say that as good. And look, I mean, they're very, very good players, but like they were not on the level of Will Zalatoris before the injuries when it comes to when it came to ball striking. They were not. So now that they're better putters for sure, but Will had such a dominant trait at the time that it's just like, how could you not like stick with this guy? You know, it's kind of like when you have a quarterback and you're like scouting him for the NFL draft. It's like when the Bills took Josh Allen. It's like, how could you not take a chance on him? The guy has just a cannon for an arm. You know, it's the same thing with Zalatoris. He was so physically gifted with his long game. Of course, like you had to stick it out with him.
That's true. No, I think
Cutler got so much run in the NFL because they're so physically gifted,
and yet he was too busy smoking J's.
Oh God,
I miss Jay Cutler. I miss that.
So do I.
That man a ton. So some keys to success here to win. The course hasn't changed very much. However, this is one of my favorite courses to break down and review. And if you want a more in-depth breakdown, check out our show from last year, breaking the whole thing down. But this golf course is so fascinating. I'm not sure if you ever had the opportunity to like watch it up close or ever go there, but you're in. First of all, it's literally exactly what it sounds like. TBC Southwind, the back nine, you're completely playing into the wind, going south back towards the clubhouse. This golf course is, in my opinion, should be one of the should be the second playoff event because the BMW always plays really easy across the middle section of the country. But this golf course is notorious for producing really good ball striking displays. Bogeys are huge on this golf course. We've seen guys win at scores of 16 under. We've seen guys win at scores of 3 under. It's such a mixed bag. In recent years, typically about like 15 under will get you there. When Lucas Glover won and when Willie Z won in 23 and 22 in the 2 playoff years, it was 15 under par was your winning score. But the mixed bag of guys that have won here span guys like Fabian Gomez and Daniel Berger and Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, Abe Ancer. The list goes on with a very diverse grouping of guys. What's the one thing going into this event that you're looking at for anybody in this field who have something to play for? Of course, everyone does. But even from the back end, what's the one stat that needs to stand out from every single player in the field in order to keep them inching closer towards the BMW and beyond?
Any type of strokes gained stat related to ball striking. You're playing the whole back nine. The prevailing wind, as you said, is back into the face of the players for the entire back nine. And that is it's a very demanding golf course. You don't have to hit a lot of drivers out there. There are certain holes where you can hit 3-wood or maybe a long iron, like a 2-iron or something. But at the end of the day, it's been proven you don't have to be a great putter to win out there, a la Will Zalatoris. So that being said, due to the prevailing wind direction and due to the layout of the golf course, there is a lot of trouble out there on a lot of different tee shots. You have to be a really good ball striker. You have to be. Lucas Glover won it last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a good putter at all. Historically, he's not a good putter. But historically, he's also a fantastic ball striker, just like Will Zalatoris prior to the injuries. So the greens are going to be so good down there. I mean, they're typical Bermuda. They're so fast. They're so smooth. They're just going to be perfect. It's going to be pretty easy to make putts, I would say. Now, depending on the weather, what that's going to be like down there in Memphis, I'm not really sure because spike marks are a real thing. The greens are really soft, but there's a lot of opportunities out there for sure. So, and it's a TPC course. So those types of courses generally, I find, favor elite ball strikers as well.
Yeah, you bring up a strong point on the weather conditions. It's going to be hot as hell and almost basically no rain the entirety of the week. There's supposed to be a spike in rain for like an hour on Friday, but it's going to be hot and heavy. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this course plays. It's usually one of the fastest courses on PGA Tour every year. And, yeah, you're right. The putting doesn't totally matter. We've seen a ton of different guys, good putters and bad, win here. It's all about proximity for me going into this week. If you can hit the ball close to the hole and have an easier way to get to par and just avoid bogeys, then you're going to be absolutely golden. Let's get into those picks. Beer money brought to you by our friends at Kenwood Beer. Kenny Gainwell is right around the corner with the NFL season and the Philadelphia Eagles. You might be asking yourself, who is Kenny? Well, Kenny Gainwell is a really good running back, but Kenny, the beer, is a little bit cooler. He's smooth. He's clean. He has all the juke moves to get you into the end zone. He's the routine choice for all our people who want a balanced, flavorful, no-frills beer that's right for any occasion. Only 120 calories soaking wet and 8 grams of carbs. He might be the best running back, honestly, on the Philadelphia Eagles going into this year, largely because I hate Saquon Barkley. Head to KenwoodBeer.com. Use the Kenny Tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice-cold, refreshing Kenwood beer from your favorite liquor stores in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and now Delaware, as well as the Wells Fargo Center and beyond. Must be 21 years or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. We start off at top 20, Ben, down 2, 3 weeks left. Who will prevail? Top 20.
Top 20. I'm going to go with Shane Lowry for a top 20. That's my pick.
I am going to go with a name that I was intrigued by how he didn't play well almost the entire year, but managed to get into the top 70. Adam Scott for a top 20 performance. One of the best players, and actually this is why he managed to make it, One of the best players this year in bogey avoidance. Love that stat. Top 10.
All right, top 10. This is a tough one for me. I had a couple guys I was interested in. It's like, do I want to go with the Cinderella story, or do I want to go with more of a sure thing? I mean, to be completely honest, the sure thing is there isn't really that much of a difference anyway in the odds.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Sam Bermuda Burns.
Sam Burns, I like it. My top 10.
And just
Russell
for reference,
Henley.
my Cinderella pick would have, if I wanted to go the Cinderella route, it would have been Billy Horschel, just because he's.
I kind of appreciate the lawn dog. I'll take Russell Henley for a top 10 this week. Top 5.
Top 5. I've picked this player, and he's kind of burned me, not in wins, just in not performing as well as I had hoped he would perform whenever I pick him. That being said, I'm just going to be stubborn, and I'm going to go with it. Ludwig Oberg for top 5, plus 350. I mean, there's good odds there.
My next 3 picks are all they're not like chalky, but they're all like really top of the odds board kind of players, but they all fit this course to a T. He hasn't played, and I can't tell you how long. I think probably since he played in the Olympics. I want to take Rory for a top 5 this week. He's 5th in strokes gained, ball striking. He's 9th in bogey avoidance. He's gained his strokes off the tee in 8 consecutive starts on approach in 6 of 8, with the only outliers happening in Scotland. And actually, based on how he played at Le Golf National in the Olympics, is actually a pretty good indicator for how he'll play here because the wind was so high. There's something about what's going to happen this week between my 3 picks that we might have an all-time week on the PGA Tour. So, Rory, top 5. Your gimme this week.
Okay, my gimme pick, I'm going to go with Xander for a top 5. He's plus 140.
Oh, wow. I saw him. I was going to take Xander top 10, but I realized the odds.
Dude, I was going to literally do the same thing, but it's minus 165 from like there's just
the odds are ass. All right, let me shake things up a little bit then. So you have Xander top 5. I'm going to go Patrick Cantlay top 10. I think that's actually really good value at plus 175. There's other guys that you could put in this like category where long hitters that are accurate and straight that can also put the ball relatively well 20 feet out fits in that realm. Again, also like would consider Rory for a top 10 too if you wanted to take a step back at 125. It's almost even money. So I'm going to ride there with Cantlay, but I think you want free money. It's basically Xander and Rory at 165, 125. I think it's going to be a home run. Your winner this week at the St. Jude.
Okay, given that it's a ball striker's course and given that he just won a gold medal, I would be foolish not to take Scotty. Look, I get it. He's literally the best on the odds boards. He's plus 350 to win. Scotty Scheffler to win.
Yeah, there's no way on earth at this point that honestly for the next 3 weeks you can't not pick Scotty Scheffler to win all 3 events. I think someone
would have to do something crazy.
There have not been many really low rounds on this golf course in its history. And if Scotty Scheffler goes in even one of these days and shoots 6 under, he has the title already. The fact that he's been so good as a ball striker the entirety of the year, and we even doubted him for a little bit, like about a month ago, like what he did at the Olympics was so extraordinarily strong. And he can only get better from here now as the lights shine brightest and he gets into the biggest events of the year. And he has great course history here as well. There's no way you can't take Scotty. Even at the number at plus 350, you're still at 3-1. It's free comparative to everybody else. And Xander Schauffele, while incredible, had a couple of blow-ups the last couple of weeks. Rory McIlroy always has some sort of a blow-up on Sunday. You look at the rest of the field, and it's not close. It's Scottie Scheffler's game through and through. Before we hit the road, I want to get your take. We've already broken down or actually, we might have not even done it on the show. I think we did it actually while I was because the news came out when I was caddying for you at Bethpage. So Keegan Bradley announced his second vice captain pick. His first one was Webb Simpson. I'm not sure if we reviewed this on the show. His second, though, also going away from the old guard that has been almost forever on Ryder Cup teams, goes away from that and chooses Brandt Snedeker. What do you think of the trio so far to lead the U.S.?
You know what? I like it. I think it's pretty clear based on his Keegan himself and then Webb and Brandt. He's going with a lot of energy and positivity. And I think that you need that, especially when you hear some of the stories that were coming out with the locker room just being in shambles and just the drama-filled Ryder Cup that we had last year. Mm-hmm. I think kind of out with the old and in with the new. I think that these are some necessary changes that had to be made. You see it all the time, like, NFL teams or baseball teams or whatever who have younger coaching staffs, they have a lot of success. And a lot of it is because they relate very, very well to the players. And so I think having, as of right now, how it stands, those guys probably would relate much better to whoever's on that team next year compared to the traditional vice captain selections that we've seen in the past.
I agree. I think it's a very interesting group so far. All three of these guys were on the Ryder Cup team back in 2012. They played together for the first time in a team setting. I believe it was Webb's first Ryder Cup as well as Brandt's. I'm curious though to see where he goes from here, because when you look at the other guys that are out there, of course you can go back to those like older guys, Stricker, Couples, Davis Love, and the like. But particularly looking at the 2012 Ryder Cup team, and also Furyk falls in that category, but he's a little more on the older side as well. I'm curious to see who else he chooses, because logical VCs that could have been on this team, Phil would have made sense, Tiger would have made sense, Hunter Mahan would have made sense, but he's obviously Mahan, sorry.
He hasn't played a tour event.
It's been so long. It's like it's you almost can't have him there. Do you bring Zach Johnson on? Do you try and risk that?
Are you kidding me?
Like Matt Kuchar is still an everyday golfer. Do you bring Matt Kuchar on? He was on the 2012 team. Who else was there? Like Jason Duffner was there. Bubba was on the team, but Bubba's now defected to Live. Like where does he go from here, do you think?
Tiger. I think Tiger's going to be a shoo-in.
If Tiger even accepts it, he already declined the captaincy. Would he even want to be a VC?
He's been one before. So
yeah, I feel like if he denied being the captain overall, he might also.
Being a captain's a lot different than being a vice captain, though.
It's true.
So I would say Tiger's in that. I would say, oh God,
I'm looking up to the 2014.
Is it possible? Like, let me throw a situation out there for you.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Jordan Spieth's game, I would not feel comfortable having him being a captain's pick.
But be a VC for morale.
Think about that.
So
I don't think that that's a bad selection.
So you know what? It's interesting because as I'm looking at this, I'm also looking at old like Ryder Cup teams, and those three guys all came up on the 2012 team. If you look at like 2014, the USA team was Bubba, Ricky, Furyk, Jimmy Walker, Phil Mickelson, Kuchar, Spieth, Reed, ZJ, Keegan, and Webb.
Jimmy Walker could be one.
In 2012, Snedeker was on it as well, along with DJ, Furyk, Stricker, Phil, Kuchar, ZJ, Webb, Duffner, Bubba, and Tiger. It would be interesting because while JT has finally looked like back in form, Jordan Spieth has not looked the same at all. Ricky Fowler hasn't looked the same at all. But at the end of the day, we know that like that boys club does gel so well. I think you actually bring up a really interesting point. If you had, let's say, two VCs like a Spieth and Fowler, if you're going young and you want guys who know each other and you want guys to hype everybody up and you want positivity, that might make sense. Because your roster this year is also going to, first of all, the boys club wouldn't have even made it anyways, even probably as captain's picks, with the way some of the live guys are playing, on top of the fact that you have younger and stronger players than a lot of them. Scythe Theegala fits that bill. Akshay fits the bill. It'd be really interesting to see those guys who might not be able to qualify on skill might be a VC for morale. I think it's a really interesting point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would definitely be kind of sick.
All right. I'm exhausted.
I hear you. I appreciate it. That's been episode 167 of the Get in the Hole podcast. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course on YouTube at Underground Sports PHI. Follow us to Get in the Hole pod on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and all our socials. That's really going to do it here for another great week in golf, another really good week looking forward to. For Ben Pirro and Stephen McAvoy, we'll see you next week as the FedEx Cup Playoffs roll on.
Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!